Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and at the time of this video going live, we have roughly 1 week left of the Snowflake event. If you are living under a rock or just logging on for the first time this month, the Snowflake event is the traditional end-of-the-year event where Wargaming gives you in-game rewards for simply going into battle with your ships. The rewards are determined by the tier of the ship. Tier 7 through Tier 5 ships will receive coal for going into battle and basically just doing decent. Tier 8 and 9 and super ships will receive steel, and then Tier 10 ships will receive a Santa gift certificate for going to battle with one of those ships and just performing decently well. Now, that, of course, will net you probably a decent amount of coal and steel by the end of the event. And, of course, what do you use those coals and those steels on? Well, you use them in the armory in order to acquire new ships. And since there's a very good chance that a lot of you will be finally getting enough steel to purchase your maybe first or second steel ship, we are talking about the ship that players simply will not shut up about, and a steel ship you should most definitely pick up if you've got the steel, and that is the Tier 10 French battleship, the Bourgogne. Now, why won't people shut up about this ship? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First off, it is a ship that is always just spammed in my comments anytime I do some type of top 5 list that has any vague mentioning of battleships or premium ships or reward ships. Just for the sake of brevity, I call reward ships and event ships premium ships just because it saves time, right? So that's what I'm talking about. But anyway, anytime I talk about anything near like that, there's always people in the comments just spamming, where's the Bourgogne? Why didn't you mention the Bourgogne? How could you not mention the Bourgogne? It's because it's been in the past 10 of those list videos, and I'm tired of talking about it. But nevertheless, it is, I wouldn't say entirely justified. It is a good ship in my opinion. We're going to talk about it here. But there are a couple of things that the Bourgogne has going for it. First off, it is statistically the best battleship in the game, believe it or not. Yes, this turbocharged Alsace is statistically the best battleship in the game when it comes to average damage done, which you might be a little confused about that when you learn that it only has 15-inch guns at Tier 10, which are quite small by Tier 10 standards. But the Bourgogne, despite its smallness and when it comes to its guns, it's got it where it counts, if you know what I'm saying. And, well, we're going to get into that today. But yes, the Bourgogne is a steel ship, and again, there's probably a fair few of you that are just getting enough steel through this Snowflake event in order to finally purchase a steel ship. Now, should this be your first steel ship? In my opinion, it's one of the two that I often recommend to be your first steel ship. It's either this or the Stalingrad. Now, in today's World of Warships, I'm leaning more and more towards this being your first steel ship than the Stalingrad, because the Stalingrad hasn't really aged that well, and you might be thinking, well, what are you talking about, Sealord? Stalingrad's one of the most busted ships in the game. Well, sure, it's pretty strong, but you weren't here all them years ago when that sucker was first introduced into this game. My God, was that a mighty ship. And yes, it's still quite strong today, but in today's World of Warships, it just doesn't fare quite as well as it used to. Is it still strong? Yes. As good as it was? No. The Bourgogne, on the other hand, has, well, she still does quite well despite being a fairly old premium ship. And the match watching in the background I selected for this video because this is a match that takes place on the ocean map. And on the ocean map, you get some pretty dang passive teams because, well, there's nowhere to hide. You don't have any type of island cover to break line of sight. You can't really flank because you're going to get spotted. And it tends to be a pretty passive game when you get the ocean map. Despite all that, you can see that the Bourgogne does quite well, quite easily so. And it's not that hard at all to do very well in this ship in today's World of Warships, which is why I do recommend this ship usually over the Stalingrad, especially when it comes to just random battles gameplay. So, the Bourgogne. Why is the Bourgogne so good? Well, like I mentioned, it is essentially a turbocharged Alsace. Wargaming used the good old French formula of taking a lower tier battleship, turbocharging it, and pushing it a tier higher. And in this case, oh man, does that just make this ship so good. Like, it's already starting from a strong ship, right? The Alsace is already a fantastic tier 9 battleship, but you're giving it more accurate guns, and a better reload, and a reload booster, all in one package. On top of that as well, the secondary gun configuration is different on the Bourgogne. The Bourgogne's secondaries aren't really good for being secondary guns, but they're better in the AA department than the Alsace, so that's kind of what happened there. But don't secondary build the Bourgogne, please. It's all about the main guns. So let's talk about those main guns. So, like I mentioned, you do get 15-inch guns here on the Bourgogne, but they are in the number of 12. You get 4 per turret and 3 turrets, with a 24.5 second reload time if you take the reload module. So, with 12 15-inch guns, you get a 24-second base reload time with the reload module. Now that's a lot of shells that you're throwing down range every 24 seconds. And to top that off, they are the French AP shells, which means they're high velocity and they pack a punch. How much of a punch? Well, I'm glad you asked. So the AP Alpha is 11,900 per shell. That's of course, you know, if you Citadel the ship, that's your maximum alpha damage, 11,900. Multiply that by 12, and you've got, what, a little over 140,000 alpha damage per salvo every 24 seconds, with better accuracy than the Alsace. Now, as you can see in the background footage, the shells, yes, they do sometimes go all over the place, but like we were talking about with the Iwami video yesterday, with a 24-second reload, not that big of a deal, right? And again, it's 12 shells. So the AP on the Bourgogne is very, 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 very good. Thanks to the high velocity of the shells, you won't have any trouble pinning any of the higher tier battleships that show you their broadside, and you're probably going to Citadel them if they're very unlucky, right? Or if you are lucky. Really, from medium range, you're probably going to slap the ever-loving crap out of them if their Citadel isn't submerged, right? Cruisers, this does mean that you will be overpinning light cruisers and medium armored cruisers quite consistently, but when it comes to those heavily armored cruisers, those large cruisers like we do have so much at higher tier now, you are going to be making their day quite miserable because they have enough armor to arm your shells, and well, you got a lot of them. Now that also takes us to the HE, which, as you'll notice in the background footage, I do use a lot in this round, and that's the beauty of the Bourgogne. You do have 15-inch shells at tier 10, which do mean you don't have a lot that you can overmatch with your 15-inch guns, but you don't really care about that because you've got HE, and you've got pretty good HE. So for the HE shells, you have a 36% chance of causing a fire per shell. They pin 63 millimeters of armor, and they do 5,400 maximum damage. Again, that's if they Citadel, which HE, it's not unheard of for HE Citadeling ships, which like lightly armored light cruisers. But I mean, yeah. But anyway, you have 12 of those shells with a 36% fire chance. You're going to be setting fires with these shells, and again, they're more accurate with a faster reload than the Alsace. So yeah, you can be a quite proper little big fire starter here with the Bourgogne, which you do need, since again you do lack that overmatching that a lot of higher tier battleships do have. Now, this by itself, the good AP and the good HE, would be great, but slap a reload booster on top of that, which means you can get these guns, these 12 15-inch guns that reload every 24 seconds, down to a 12-second reload with your reload booster. Now, if you time it right, this reload booster, it runs for 20 seconds. And if you get it timed right, you can get 3 salvos out very quickly with this reload booster. So you can get 36 shells on target in roughly 20 seconds with this reload booster. Now what I like to do with the HE is I'll fire one salvo, hopefully start a fire on the battleship that I'm targeting, and I wait a second, see if he's going to put that fire out. He puts the fire out, we wait for his damage con to come off a cooldown, which you can tell by the blinking lights on his ship blinking. When they stop blinking, his damage con is no longer running, and then you fire another round, you hit the reload booster, and then you get two quick follow-up shots on those shells. So you probably just started another 2 or 3 fires on his ship, again with 12 shells going at him every burst, with a 36% fire chance per shell. So you're going to be cooking him quite well. And that's just with the HE. Now with the AP, if someone is dumb enough to show you broadside, yeah, absolutely let one salvo rip, then hit the reload booster and get 2 quick follow-up salvos after that, and you're probably going to send that guy back to port, if not just the back of the map, by removing probably 3/4 of his HP. So yeah, the guns on this thing are absolutely sweet. You do have to use your brain, though. You have to know where to aim. You do have to be more familiar with the armor layout of the enemy ships, because again, you do have 15-inch guns. But once you get used to that, and once you have that knowledge, you can very much make it work with the Bourgogne. And that's just the guns. We haven't even talked about the rest of the ship yet. Maneuverability, she does have a top speed of 33.6 knots with the speed flag. And like all a lot of French battleships, she does get an engine boost that can give her a 15% boost to that top speed. That's very helpful when it comes to surviving, because this is still a tier 9 battleship hull at tier 10, which means you have tier 9 armor. Well, and you have the French armor too, right? Like the Bourgogne, like the Alsace that it's based off of, it's just covered in 32 millimeters of armor, which means that by tier 10, I mean, heck, pretty much every cruiser that you're going to come across at tier 10, if they're not crossing that 32 millimeter threshold, they're building into their fire chances. They probably have very good fire chances because it's tier 10 cruisers. And yeah, you don't want to be the one taking the hits in the Bourgogne because of that. So not only does she have that 32 millimeter armor scheme essentially everywhere, she doesn't have that much HP, again by tier 10 standards, 74,700. That is tier 9 battleship HP at tier 10. So again, you don't have the armor for it, you don't have the HP for it, you don't want to be the one that's sitting there and tanking. But again, with the engine boost, you can very much pick and choose when you do and when you don't want to get into an engagement. Your concealment's pretty decent, 13.2 kilometers. It's on the lower end by tier 10 standards. I mean, by some tier 10 battleships like the GK that's downright stealthy, but I mean, it's on the better end, right? So use that speed, use that stealth to disengage from those fights that you are not going to win, that you're getting burned out from. Now, on the flip side too, if you are on a flank that the enemy team is not watching, you can sprint down it with that engine boost and with your decent concealment, and then you can get the broadsides of the enemy ships with your lovely French AP and your reload booster, and then just blast away. That's kind of the French battleship thing. Find a flank that the enemy team's not watching, run down it, blast their broadsides, laugh, drink a bottle of wine, eat a baguette, and have a good day. So, all in all, the Bourgogne is an excellent tier 10 premium ship, an excellent still ship, and if you are looking for your first still ship, like I said at the start of this video, I would highly recommend it. It's a fun ship in randoms. It does get used in competitive sometimes as kind of the battleship you use if you're trying to rush things in clan battles. Haven't seen it too much this season, but I mean, I've seen it used, right? And again, with the firepower that the ship does have, it is quite mighty. So guys, that's my 2 cents on the Bourgogne, the ship that people just won't shut up about. And maybe now that it has its own standalone video for the first time in about a year on this channel, maybe those people will be satiated. Who knows, but the future. Guys, hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday and wonderful rest of your week. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 75,000 subscribers thanks to you guys, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Again, hope you guys have a wonderful week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.